It's easy to put someone in a category as either a man or a woman just by looking at them, but what we often don't consider is how that person sees themselves on the inside. Outward appearances signal to us which label someone should or shouldn't have. Graduate Teaching Associate Richard Curry teaches classes on sexuality at the University of Tennessee and encourages students to engage in open conversations about sexual orientation and gender roles to break down negative ideologies.
Society has very clear qualities of what is considered to be a man. You've got to be masculine, you've got to be a provider, you've got to like sports, you can't play with Barbie dolls, things like that. It starts from a very, very early age, and we sort of ingrain those ideas in. Little boys don't play with Barbie dolls. Little girls, you dress them up in little pink dresses and you get them a little KitchenAid set, and they learn to cook and they play and stuff like that. That's what little girls do. Little boys, they play baseball with their dad, or they play football, and they grow up and they play sports, and they drive a truck, and they're manly, they're macho. That's what a man is. I think if you start to have those conversations and those dialogues, you'll start to see that culture around it change. And if UT wants to be at the forefront of that, if they really want to be a top 25 institution, they're going to be one of the schools that leads the way with that, not one that 15 years from now we look back and say, wow, UT was really, really far behind on these issues.
Joel Kramer with UT Housing works with student groups like the Lambda Student Union to foster a safe and accepting environment for LGBTQ people on campus.
Actually, if you check the Campus Pride Index, it's a national survey that's done of colleges across the country, and I'm one of the people who helps answer it for UT to provide our score, we're actually about in the middle. So we're not as far back as people think we are, but we're definitely not as far forward as we could be. At the student level, there's a lot of acceptance, and there's a lot of willingness to dialogue and willingness to learn. But I think as you go to higher levels, and I hate to say it like I'm super young, but as you move into older people and people of my generation and above, there may be less acceptance because we're kind of set in our ways. UT's housing is still very traditional, where we have male and we have female, and they don't so much cross. So that's one of the things that's happening all around the country, in the Northeast and the Northwest, and even some schools in the South are going to gender neutral housing and housing that offers more flexible options. So those are places where UT can start to make steps, and actually is making a little progress.
For the people who feel they don't match what society expects of them, everyday life can be a struggle. Former UT student Lex Poole began his transition soon after graduating in May 2013 and said his family is making this already difficult time in his life even harder.
It's like, I'm trying to avoid them now. And one of the first things they did was uninvite me to this yearly party they have on 4th of July because they didn't want to freak out their friends. So, yeah, that really hurt my feelings. I don't know, I was in pretty bad shape that whole summer anyways, and that didn't help. In the media, once someone says they're transgender, or once you find out, it turns into a joke, like you can't believe the protagonist is sleeping with this transgender woman, sort of thing, and as if it's kind of gross or funny, but it's not. I'm not out to my work yet, so So my work buddy's calling me ma'am and just saying feminine pronouns and all that stuff is just kind of freaking me out because I want to tell them, but I gotta make sure they won't fire me for it before I do that.
Charlie Clifton is a transgender graduate assistant who works in the LGBTQ Outreach Center on campus. He said the amount of acceptance he receives is based on where he is in Knoxville.
It's the birthplace of the Don't Say Gay bill, so it's like there's a lot of homophobia and transphobia here, but there's also a lot of people that are accepting. It's just kind of like finding them. In Knoxville as a whole, it really just depends on the area that you're in and how like visibly queer you are, because a lot of people like femme lesbians or masculine gay men have like passing privilege because they can pass as straight pretty frequently. Some places in Knoxville that I would never go to and feel safe, like 100% safe. But there are a lot of places in Knoxville that I do feel safe. I would say campus is mostly accepting, but then we had our flag ripped down the other day. So.
Clifton said since beginning his transition, he's discovered he's actually gaining some privilege by presenting himself as a male.
Just having the privilege of being white to begin with makes it so much easier to have another factor of it, to be like gay or to be trans. Because one thing is really interesting, like I'm gaining a lot of privilege by transitioning. Like if I pass well enough that people don't know that I'm trans, then I'm a straight white male to them, and like of middle class and relatively able-bodied. So I have a lot of privilege in the world.
Richard Curry says he's also been accepted despite his sexual orientation because his gender and race allow him to choose when he reveals that he's gay.
I wouldn't say that I've been treated differently because of my sexual orientation, but that's because I come from a position of privilege. And by privilege, I mean I'm white and I'm a male, and I would be what we would consider within the LGBT community as passing. Passing would simply mean any given day in any given context, people would not assume that I was gay.
On a campus that claims to value diversity, how accepted is the diversity at the University of Tennessee? Despite attempts to improve awareness and acceptance of people within the LGBTQ community, the definition of a man and a woman excludes those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. It would be easier if we broke the expectations that society has set for what a real man and a real woman should be in order to advance and grow as a community. Unfortunately, reversing these ideologies isn't as easy as pressing a button.